says, get that India. Big boy.
Call an ambulance! Maybe call a police! Oh, what a shot! What a shot! Campbell Gillard!
Hello and welcome back to a special edition of the Tip Sheet podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. Joining me to introduce our special guest shortly is my good mate, Sixties. We'll get to him ever so briefly. But before we do, let me introduce you to our sponsors, Big Swing Golf, Northmead, and Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan, and Parramatta, helping bring the Tip Sheet to you guys each and every week. But for now, over to you, Sixties.
John, there are great things happening in the Parramatta Junior Rugby League this season, and we thought we'd get up to date with what's going on there. And we have as our guest today Adam Fairley. Adam is the General Manager of the Parramatta Junior Rugby League. Adam, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, fellas.
We're just going to kick off about your role itself. You've been in that role since the end of last year. Can you fill us in a little bit on what that entails?
Yeah, I certainly can. So my role the old role was split in two, where Matt Brady was looking after the Junior League and also partaking in pathways. So there was a report done on the back of a survey that was undertaken by the Parramatta NRL club by Gemba, and there were 8 key issues and opportunities that were identified out of that stakeholder research. And my role was created because they saw that there should be a person that is aligned to pathways and also into the Junior League. It was just too much for one person to do. So basically my charter has been to work in line with the stakeholder research and the issues and opportunities that were identified. They include strategy and governance, funding and resources, culture and behaviours, the capabilities of clubs, fairness, communication, coaches, and game development and community engagement. So I've come on board and obviously looked into those. One of the first things that I was asked to do was to look at our staff structure and how we might go about that. So Martina Bieloch has been upgraded in her role, and she's now doing basically all the Junior League operations, which has allowed me to undertake I suppose a different look at the Junior League with respect to looking at governance and how clubs are run and how they report and how our constitution looks and all those sorts of things. So I've been chartered to look at the constitution, to work with a subcommittee on strategic plan. And one of the other things that I did when I looked at the headcount and how we could improve everything in line with the stakeholder research was bringing someone in as a multimedia coordinator. So that's what we have done, and we've got some pretty good results from those structural changes.
I guess it's really taking the professionalism of the Junior Rugby League to a new level.
It certainly is. If you look through the Constitution, for example, it's written in a way that associations used to be as management committees with respect to presidents and secretaries and vice presidents, whereas we're our own association entity now. It's more chairpersons and deputy chairs and the like. So that's one part that I'm looking at the Constitution to have that amended so that it better relates to how we actually are now as opposed to how we were.
We've had the likes of Mark O'Neill and Nathan Brown on the Tip Sheet chatting to us for a bit of regularity. And one of the things that they've really driven home is the importance for Parramatta of being a self-identified development club. How important is having a healthy Junior Rugby League competition to the success of the Parramatta Eels?
It's extremely important. If you look through our 30-player roster at the moment, players like Junior Parlaw, Mitch Moses, Dylan Brown, Ryan Madison, Sean Russell, Will Penasini, Matt Dury have all come either through our junior clubs or our pathways. So it's obviously if it's vibrant and if it's strong, we're definitely going to get players that break through into the NRL ranks. Quite obviously our SG Ball have just taken out their competition, so there'll be plenty of players to filter through. They're hard to hang on to, quite obviously, because there's talent and salary caps, but if we have a healthy Junior Rugby League, well, that means that we can feed our pathways and that can eventually hopefully lead to our NRL players.
Well, just looking at participation numbers, how are registrations looking this year? And I suppose as a follow-up to that, when do registrations close?
Well, firstly, registrations close on the 30th of June, so we've got a month to go, but it's pleasing to advise that the benchmark has always been 2019 when sports associations and the like and the different sports talk, because that was prior to COVID. So at that stage, we had 5,488 registered players, so just shy of 5,500. And this year, we've already eclipsed 5,500. So we're going exceptionally well. It's on the back of, I suppose all sports are seeing that same growth this year. We're coming out of COVID. People are feeling safer about life in general. That's not hanging around. There was a lot of parents, particularly of younger kids, who weren't comfortable to have their kids out on the park when all that was happening. But now, notwithstanding that, we've had great growth in our sort of 13 to 16-year-old age group as well. So people are coming back to the game, so it's fantastic.
We've had some wonderful chats with local clubs about the female participation space. I mean, Toongabbie and Kellyville immediately come to mind, but there's plenty of other clubs doing great things there. How is growth in that space going in 2023?
It's been the standout, to tell you the truth. So this year we're closing in on 1,000 players registered. The peak was last year. It's grown year on year. Even through COVID, it was continuing to grow because it's obviously an evolving form of the game, female rugby league. So we've the benchmark being 2019, we were just shy of 600, and now we're up to close to 1,000. So it's basically a 50% increase. And as you said, All Saints Toongabbie have probably been trailblazers amongst our clubs with respect to the promotion of the female game and the participation. So it's fantastic. Our smaller clubs are picking up the league tag version of the game as opposed to the tackle, and that's something that we probably need to focus on across the spectrum in our junior league, not just for females, but particularly in the southern clubs where we've got populations that aren't prone to being part of tackle football, but they're more prone to playing Oz tag and games like that in the summer, but we need to bring them across to potential league tag competitions during the winter, which will boost our numbers. And it's certainly how other associations, Cronulla's a great example, have boosted their numbers in recent years, is through league tag.
Adam, when we've spent a bit of time talking to a number of the junior clubs in the Parramatta Junior Rugby League, they've thanked Parramatta Leagues Club for their support, financial support in helping making it easier for junior players to play the game. Can you explain how the Leagues Club and the Eels assist in Junior Rugby League?
Yes, I certainly can explain that. At our most recent Presidents and Secretaries meeting, we did explain to them exactly how it all works, and are pleased to advise that we've just received from Paraleagues that everything's been approved with respect to this year, so we know where we're headed. The types of things that they help out, which does particularly help with the cost of registration, which allows clubs to hold on to that money themselves and then invest in other things that they require in and around the club. Officials and players vest. So quite obviously, every game there's officials everywhere. You've got officials that are ground managing, that are league safe trainers, etc. So all those vests are provided, and players in the younger age groups have dummy half and first receiver vests. So that's all provided by the Leagues Club grant. Insurance. So clubs don't have to pay any insurance for players aged 4 to 18. So that's a burden that they don't need to find. It's covered by the grant. The footballs that we play with, so all teams are provided with a football for the year. The Leagues Club grant picks that up. And there's a range of other things like the referees' match payments. Again, under 6s to 18s, no cost to club. They don't need to find anything for the referees that are out there. They support the referees through communication gear. So being a former referee in another code myself, it's fantastic that in modern days, referees can communicate with themselves through earpieces. So again, the Leagues Club grant provides our referees at a district level with that ability to communicate. And watching back on videos and hearing the way they communicate, it's a vital tool. They had a pre-season training and upskilling camp, the referees. So part of the Leagues grant was contributed to that for their education and so that we've got better referees and well-informed referees going forward. We're looking to conduct a Coach the Coaches course to upskill our coaches. Again, no cost to the club. And they also help with the printing of our score sheets and grand final programs. So it's all admin costs that both the clubs and also the Junior Rugby League don't have to find because the Leagues Club are providing it. So we worked out based on an under-12s registration what that grant means to each individual club based on their fees. So it's around $38.50 a player. So you add all them up across your club, it's quite significant.
Yeah, that is a significant number.
You hear those participation rates, and then you sort of peel back some of those other factors, like you mentioned, the officials, the coaches, and the Parramatta district, the Penrith district. They're mammoth undertakings, aren't they?
They are. It's massive. It's in excess of 300,000, and we'll be certainly going to the media to promote the great support that they do provide to our junior league.
Now, I was honoured to be invited to be part of that season launch at CommBank Stadium earlier this year, and a highlight was watching the under-6 teams getting their experience running out from the sheds through the field club and out onto CommBank Stadium with all the surrounding fanfare that goes on. Can you fill in our listeners about the activities that took place that day and the thinking behind providing those experiences for the young kids?
Yeah, it's really about providing that wow factor to those kids and their parents, really. A lot of the time, under sixes, it's the first season, and if it's the eldest child in the family, it's their first taste of our junior rugby league. So quite obviously the NRL and playing at CommBank is the absolute ultimate that you can do in our game. So it's just providing them with a taste of that. So up front, the kids arrived and they're provided with an Eels jersey. So if they haven't got a team that they follow, or if they've got another team that they follow, well, maybe they might shift over to the Eels. But if they obviously follow the Eels, well, that's an added bonus. But it's just saying that they're part of our club and part of our junior league, and thanks for being a part of it. And then get to go down to the change rooms, and we've got a couple of players that are down there, a couple from the NRL and one or two also from the NRLW. Which was great, and I will say that the players that were involved were very accommodating, and they were right into it. They were happy to meet the kids and talk to the parents and get their photos taken and sign autographs and the like. So that was fantastic. And then they get to run out of the tunnel. So as a 6-year-old, a lot of them probably don't know what's going on, but their parents are there filming it on their phones. So, in 6 or 10 years' time, they'll certainly know what that experience means in time. And then we implemented some further skills out on the field this year. So that just got them a feel out on the ground and got them to do a few little kicking drills, running drills, passing drills. And then they ended up going and having some fun activities, jumping castles, face painting and the like. So each team sort of spends around an hour and a half at the stadium going through all of those items, and they have a great time, and the feedback we received was fantastic.
Well, I actually enjoyed seeing some of the kids. I think they did know what was going on because their game faces were on as they were coming out through the field club, and because people that were there were giving them a round of applause and cheering like that would happen for the NRL team as they're coming out through the field club. And there did look like a couple of ring-ins later on in the day where a big bloke looked a lot like Sean Lane and another player that looked a lot like Sean Russell joined one of the teams.
Well, imagine 13, 14, 15 years down the road, it comes full circle and they're about to make their NRL debut running on the CommBank, and they're in the interview, they're like, oh no, actually I made my CommBank debut when I was under sixes, ran on with Sean Lane and whatnot. So yeah, it's a fantastic initiative. And speaking of initiatives, there's been some changes being implemented in junior footy, non-competitive up to a certain age, and the tag versions that you mentioned, league tag, sort of parallel to Oztag there in young ages. How are those changes progressing?
Yeah, they've gone well. I will say kudos to our clubs. There was a lot, particularly on social media and a bit in media, in and around the Tackle Ready program, which was to be implemented by the NRL this year. There was a bit of negativity, not from our clubs, or not particularly from the Parramatta Junior Rugby League, but in and around it. The NRL didn't end up making it compulsory to be implemented this year. However, we'd sort of advised our clubs that was going to be the case, and they've certainly come on board with it. The game development officers from the NRL have conducted the Tackle Ready program for our under sevens, and they finished last night, being Tuesday night, and they'll now progress this weekend to tackle, and we're going to celebrate that with an under sevens gala day out at Old Surrey Yards Reserve. We're really looking forward to that. It's all about fun and festivities. So we'll put the jumping castles and the like on, and the face painters. So what the Sixers got, the Sevens will get to celebrate where they're headed from league tag to tackle. So it's been good, and the feedback, the limited feedback we have received has been excellent. But normally, particularly in community sport, the only time that you hear about something if someone isn't happy with something. So we haven't had much feedback, so that's normally a good thing.
Well, just another change that has happened in recent times, and it's with the older age group, is that association with the Canterbury Junior League. Can you explain how that works?
Yeah, so commencing in the 2022 season, from under 13s and older, a decision was made, and that was on the back of participation numbers were probably declining across Sydney Metro, and also for the grading of competitions. So one thing I've found very quickly in my role here is the difference between Division 1 and Division 2 is very large. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't got those participation rates in your 13s to 16s, for example, you really need to combine with another association to get the depth in that Division 1 competition, and then provide a nice even competition for Division 2 and Division 3. So our numbers, as I've said, have grown fantastically this year, which has just meant that we've got more teams in those Division 1 competitions as opposed to Canterbury, predominantly across the board in the 13s through to 18s. But it's worked well. The people that we're working with at the Bulldogs Junior Rugby League are great to deal with. We've brought on some initiatives together this year that we'll touch on a bit later, I'm sure, in this interview. But for now, it's working well. There's some interpretations that are different between our referee associations that will continue to work through, but outside of that, all in all, the partnership is really good, and I think our Division 1 teams appreciate the different competition because they've played against the same teams from 6s through to 12s predominantly, but you get that different form of competition. You get to play at some different grounds and the like, and I think they like rising to that challenge.
We've had the opportunity to speak with and profile a number of junior clubs, part of your Para Stories column, Craig. And it's been a learning experience to discover the gamut of what they do and the dedication of the people involved, particularly the volunteers. There's just so many of them at every club. Why are junior sport clubs so integral to the communities they represent?
Well, they provide the kids and the adults with that place of belonging. You know, if you're not involved in sport, you really... I mean, there's other things that people can do, but sport really brings teamwork together. If you're part of a club, it's being part of something. You get great friendships. It's all about teamwork, and people have great pride in volunteering their time. So it's really that place of belonging, and it's somewhere. It's providing a safe place for kids to become adults and to be around people that they like being around and they can form friendships with. And I mean, the adults form great friendships as well. So it's really that it does provide community spirit and it just works. Junior sport just works.
Yeah, and one of the things that we noticed as well was the events and the different get-togethers that a lot of these junior clubs have for the people that form their community, whether it be anything from the fundraising aspect of it through to just fun nights and weekends away and camps and things like that. So I mean that must give a great sense of belonging for the people that are part of those clubs for things like that. I can't imagine a community that doesn't have a sports club or a number of sports clubs there, because I think it'd be a massive hole if junior sport suddenly disappeared.
Massive, yeah.
for like it did, I guess, when COVID happened.
Yeah,
COVID did. That's
exactly.
exactly
And we having those chats during the COVID times were really eye-opening as to, the importance of these clubs in the community. And I suppose two of the things that really jumped out to me when we were having our chats for the Para Story 60s was the two things that so many people were proud of from these clubs were the positive acceptance of mental health now. A lot of really good programs, Carnival Day, sort of trying to encourage the positivity behind that, and then the idea, the aspiration that these young boys and girls, they're not just coaching them as footballers, but trying to make them better boys and girls, as people. So yeah, these clubs have wonderful identities, and it's really good to see them getting back on their feet post COVID.
Yep.
I can only echo that. That's their focus. That is their community, and it's more than just a footy club now.
And on that sort of positive note, is there a particular aspect of our junior clubs that gives you the greatest pride?
Yeah, again, it really comes back to those volunteers. They're there for the kids. They love their home grounds. They love for you to come and visit them on their turf, and they like to show off what they've built over the years. They like to show off their barbecue. They all say that they've got the best steak sandwich or sausage on a roll going around. So
Hot chips with gravy.
Yes, that's exactly right.
The classic.
Yes,
Yeah.
and mind you, coming from soccer, which was my employment the 3 years prior, the rugby league canteens certainly have it over the soccer canteens. I can guarantee that.
Now, and one of the great initiatives that has happened this year, and it's been that opportunity to showcase the junior clubs, has been the social media around the Parramatta Junior Rugby League. It's absolutely gone to another level this year. We're seeing footage from all ages, and kids are getting their star moments, and they're getting a bit of microphone time and answering questions about a whole range of things. And if any of our listeners haven't checked it out, they really should get onto the Parramatta Eels, Parramatta Junior Rugby League junior sites. Can you talk us through that content, all the ideas behind it, and how it's being received at the moment?
Yeah, I certainly can. So there's a number of initiatives that have been implemented, as you said. What we tried to do is provide consistent content on the same day of the week, so everyone sort of knows what's happening. But we're going to, throughout the course of the year, change things up a little too and provide a bit of extra content. But our focus has been a match of the round. So when I came here, and it was part of my interview process, because obviously they had the report and they said, how are we going to help to promote and get more things out there? Well, I put on the table all these sorts of different things that we could consider. And the match of the round, so kudos to Matt Brady. When I got here, obviously I spent a fair bit of time with Matt because there was a little changeover period there. And I said, what comp should we focus on? Because traditionally in community sport, it's always open men's or a Premier League or whatever the case might be. He said, under 16s. I said, okay. And now knowing the complete structure, having been here for 6 months, that makes absolute total sense. 16s is the year before you move into your rep grades of playing for the Para Eels.
Refuse, yeah.
It's we've got a lot of kids that do play in the 16s comp that have played Harold Mats this year, but obviously it's the last competition where you're really playing before you get into your rep competition, and it's really worked. And it is, as we said before, it's a combined competition with Canterbury. They've really embraced it, and the types of things that we did, we had a media day, so we took every captain's photo. We spoke to the coaches and the captains leading into the season, found out a bit about them, their history, how long they've been together, new players that they've got, how they've gelled, how the trials have been, all those sorts of things. So we focused on every club leading in. We've got 11 teams in the competition, so everyone will get the opportunity to host a home game. So we're going around the grounds basically. We've got 14 rounds of competition, so those last three, if there's a washout, well, obviously that team that missed out, they'll get their opportunity, but then we'll look at the ladder and the matchups for that week and have genuine matches around. So, we've got a commentator that's come on board, Lewis Shepherd, who's been fantastic. He's just bought in. He understands junior league and he thinks it's fantastic that we're promoting it this way, and he just wants to be a part of it. His research, and he contacts the the club secretaries to get the history of the club, and he contacts the coach to get how the team's been going, the ins and outs. He knows the lineup on Thursday before it happens. So the clubs have been fantastic because we've got a multicultural competition. So some names are hard to pronounce, and we want to ensure that they are pronounced correctly. So they're sending us in videos, and they're saying, I'm such and such, and I play in the centres, so that Lewis can know that that kid's going to be in the centres, and this is how I pronounce his name. So it's been fantastic. Coaches, win, lose or draw, are doing, and captains, interviews after the game, and the feedback's been fantastic about the whole thing. We're doing highlights of that game as well, which come out on Tuesdays, and that includes those interviews after the game. Joey Grimer has come on board with a segment called Eels Coach and Reels. So this was a Matt Brady idea. Take it on board. It's fantastic. So all it is just some little 2-minute drills that our coaches of our developing kids can just take on board. Joey's focused on passing, marker play. There'll be kicking drills. There'll be all sorts of drills coming up, but it's just a little segment there every Monday. And again, the feedback's been fantastic. The viewership's excellent. The engagement's been great. We're asking everyone to send in their try of the week. There's a lot of cameras on games these days, so people get their moments. And talking of the try of the week, we had an entry from Maryland's 18-2s in round 2.
Yeah.
So we've had a player who's the opposition's kicked off. They've taken the ball, and he's taken the hit up from probably his 5 metre line, and he's basically steamrolled through the whole team.
I saw that clip.
He's run the length
impressive.
of the field.
Yeah.
We thought that was something special, and we worked with our Para NRL content team, and we said, hey, how can we collaborate here and get this out there? And, well, unbeknownst to me, you can actually collaborate on Instagram and TikTok. So we put 2 accounts together so that it was across both of us, and it went absolutely viral. It had, last look, it was over 160,000 looks or views on Instagram, and I believe it's over 2 million views on TikTok. And it's been picked up by other rugby league pages on
the
Facebook.
zeitgeist,
it's been unbelievable.
Yeah, the roast, NRL roast,
was on it. Yeah,
he had it there, and it. In fact, I saw it first there on the NRL roast.
Yeah.
So
Sixties will tell you very quickly that I'm a very vocal critic of how rugby league as a code has been almost forced to be dragged in kicking and screaming to embrace the digital age and, live streaming highlights. So hearing that the Parramatta local district is, on board completely for this is fantastic to hear.
Yeah. No, it's great. And as I said, the viewership, the engagement, it's been fantastic.
And I have to admit, I like seeing the little kids when they have their little moments with the microphone or their question of the week, whatever it might be, just seeing their answers. The number of kids that love maths at school is quite impressive to an old teacher like myself. Maths and science. So what's on the horizon for the Parramatta Junior League now?
Quite obviously, I was employed to look at those 8 pillars. So that's what my focus sort of is throughout. So number 1, we have to put together a strategic plan. So we've had a subcommittee that have looked at that. That will progress up to the Parramatta NRL board, and we're looking to implement that as of the 30th of June. And then quite obviously, I'll be working closely with that over the next 3 years to implement what's included. I briefly spoke about our constitution, so we're doing a review of our constitution to make it more modernised based on what we actually are as opposed to what we were. And part of that review is to probably make clubs a little more accountable for how they run themselves with respect to their governance and just ensuring that they're ticking all those boxes. Quite obviously, it's a big investment from parents and the like to be part of their club, and they just need to make sure that their money and the funding that they're receiving and everything's being done correctly. So we'll ensure through the strategies we're looking to put into place along that happens. We had bylaws and bylaws They're still used in some spaces, but not in many no more. So I'd probably look to transfer them into policies. There's not a lot of stuff for me to refer to at the moment with respect to if something happens. There's not a lot of black and white. So it's going to be far better, particularly for clubs. If there's something there in black and white, that's a policy. If something happens, this is what happens, or etc. So we need to build our policy library, so to speak. So that'll be something that we'll be working on. Quite obviously, we want to grow our numbers. We spoke about other forms of rugby league, where Para's pretty rusted on tackle. That's the way it is. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But there's a whole heap of other potential players out there that might want to come on board in other forms of the game. So
Well, you think players like Ryan Pappenhausen really came through touch football and whatnot?
that's right, correct. So there's examples there where they have, and it's something. And as I said, I spoke about our southern area, where we've got different cultures that are probably going to be, and even to the north, we've got a very large Indian population, for example, up the north. And you don't see many of them playing tackle rugby league. But if we introduce them to league tag or those type of competitions, well, they may progress into tackle rugby league when they see the safety measures and what they go through and learning how to tackle and all those sorts of things. So, we need to grow those numbers and make the region as good as it can be. We don't want to miss out on that opportunity. We spoke about how important it is to have a healthy junior league. Well, we don't want to miss that player that might be of a representative or then an NRL standard to slip through those cracks because they weren't given the opportunity to do so. In a nutshell, that's probably where we're headed.
Adam, it's been an incredibly informative chat. It's been a really strong opening start for you in your tenure here at the Eels, and we really look forward to seeing how your vision unfolds in the coming years. Thanks for coming on the Tip Sheet, mate.
Thanks, fellas. Cheers.
Thank you.